Welcome to Joy Nation. My name's James Atkinson, and you're watching a collaborative effort between myself and Mr. Paul
Hey everyone.
Watts, a long-standing Joico European artist. I've recently joined the team, so hello to everybody who doesn't know who I am. I hope you enjoy this video. We decided to collaborate on this one to bring you something a little bit different. Okay, so some of you may know that stripes are definitely in. We've gone straight back to the 90s, but I think there's a few different ways of doing them these days, especially with the techniques that we've learned over the past 5 years from some of our favourite balayage techniques. So I'm going to show you some fantastic stripes, and then I'm going to throw it over to Paul. Well, he's going to bring it right up to date. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we've got the hair in the parting that it's going to be worn. All we want to do is place our vertical sections in here. Now I'm going to take a vertical section, 2 centimeters roughly, and what we want to do is we want to assess how that hair's going to fall. Is it meeting all the way to the end of our perimeter, and what hair is in that section? Now hair naturally tapers down as it gets towards the ends, so we need to bear in mind that that is a factor too. A quick look one more time to make sure that that section works for us, and that is looking good. So if we're happy with our section, we just simply pop a clip in it, just like that, and we can leave that hanging there, no dramas. Then what we're going to do is we're going to determine our front section. We're going to have like a money piece style stripe at the front. So that looks good to me. It just comes down to the front of the ear here. And we need to do exactly the same thing here on this opposite side. So what I recommend you do is you start your section at the front here from the point at which you took your section and follow it down to the opposite side.
Who doesn't love a money piece?
Double check that it's a similar depth back from the hairline on each side. We're just slightly deeper on that opposite side towards the ear. Clip that out the way. Clip that out the way for a second, and then take your next channel. Once you're happy with it, pop a clip in it. Look from above to double check that each of your sections are in the right position and they are roughly in line. Now in some instances we might want one in the back here, but in this particular instance I want to go for bold, geometric. And one of the problems with putting stuff in the crown is that unless you put one here and one there and one there and go for the real tiger stripes, it can look a bit strange. One down the centre back would look a bit strange. And if you put a horizontal one across this area, you'll just end up with a slab of colour in the back. Now if you want that, great. If you don't want that, and in this particular instance we don't want that, we're just going to stick with these 4 sections in the front here. Super simple, really easy to do. Now let's get on with the bleaching part. Our colour on this front quadrant. I'm going to take a small slice of hair, and we're going to pick that slice of hair up, and we're going to fold the foil over the comb and pop it in. With this particular technique, what we're going to do is paint just over the lip of the foil as well to make sure that we get right onto the scalp, because we want it to be right on the scalp, as close to the scalp as possible. So we just want to paint just over the lip of our foil as well. Saturation is king. Make sure you work the product in side to side here. Fold by a third. Third again. Secure with the flap at the back. Unfold. And we repeat this process all the way through the section.
Right guys, so welcome. James introduced himself, he did a little intro for me. My name's Paul Watts and I'm part of the Joico European Colour Design team also. And today we're doing a little collab, as James said. He is doing a 90s inspired stripe. And I've got an idea of what I want to do to bring this bang up to date. I've been looking at colour trends, and if you know me and James, we've both got our YouTube channels. We both do sort of like trend report videos. We do weekly education with Joico as well. And I've been looking lately, and sort of like coppers, reds and violets have been sort of popping out at me at the minute. And for next year, definitely looking at the more like violet blondes that are going to be coming back. Not so much the silvers, like the slate silvers, so more like the violet colours. So what I'm thinking of doing today is doing a little bit of a root shadow, which will bring this bang up to date, because I think with balayages, highlights and everything, I think a lot of stylists and clients are wanting to bring hair a little bit more low maintenance, and I think a way to do that, bringing it bang up to date, is a little root shadow. So the colours that I'm thinking of today is I'd love to incorporate some sort of violets in there, but I need to see what James does, because then he's going to throw me the head and then I'm going to crack on with something. So I'm thinking reds, coppers or violets at the minute, because this is bleach, and knowing James, I know he's going to be using Blonde Life bleach. He absolutely loves it. The power of the lift and how quick it lifts, it's something that James and myself and all the Joico team, and I'm sure you guys out there, really love how quickly Blonde Life works as a lightener. You can see what a comment section here. You can throw all your comments in. We are here live with you to chat it through, and we're also going to be in some breakout rooms that you can join us in as well. Who likes money pieces? I mean, hands up, I do. I absolutely love money pieces when it comes to giving that vibrancy around somebody's face. Rather than just doing, I don't know, like regular highlights or balayage, making someone's face pop. I know they've been around for forever now, but clients are still really sort of captured when they see that sort of pop around their face, that brightness. And that's something that we have to really think about as well. When we're putting in trends like this, it's wearability, maintenance, but also clients don't really know what is bang on trend unless we're giving them that trend. And they wouldn't have seen this really too commercial as such at the minute. It's mainly us that see it all the time, being hairdressers. We're constantly flicking through Insta looking for hair inspo, and money pieces are now becoming more of like a commercialized look. So let's see what James is going to say when it comes to the...
we are on to the slice section through the side here. And one of the things you just want to double check before you get on with it is that it's nicely in line with the opposite side. I know we checked it out in the beginning, but it's really important that we just make sure that is a fact before we get on with the technique. So you want to clip this hair neatly out of the way, so it doesn't interfere with your sections. And then if you come in and split this section into two, you can work on the two sections independently. I recommend you start on the bottom and then work your way to the top. Take a vertical slice, straight down, just like so. Take the next piece of hair that you're going to colour and clip it away, and then come in with your foil, and you simply do exactly as you did on your previous sections. Saturation is king. We're going to slightly overlap our foil, but only by a very small amount, especially in this first fall. We don't want it to bleed onto the hair underneath the section. We want to be more aggressive with overlapping the edge of our foil once we've moved past this front section.
I have the original colour that James has used as well, so he has pre-coloured this mannequin to get it nice and healthy and shiny and strong prior to the bleaching process, and he has also pre-treated it with the Joico hair repair system, 4-step system. But the colour he used was the 4NG and the 6NV out of Joico Lumishine permanent range, and that was just to give it sort of like this golden sort of violet hue when we were discussing this prior to what we were going to be doing today. There was just some ideas. We wanted to add a bit of warmth, but also create that sort of pearlescentness to it. And that's where the colour choice really came from. Mixing two families which are complete opposite. So to create a look really nice and soft, but also very, very wearable, very, very commercial. And this is something that he did on this mannequin head to prep. And it's something that also he could have been using was the Defy Damage spray. So when it comes to, obviously everybody knows the Defy Damage, that's the spray that we are going to use for the bond protection, bond building, and just making sure that the hair stays nice and healthy. But James, again, you can see the sections are nice and thin, making sure that the saturation, like James said, saturation is king, is going all the way through, because if the sections were too thick, then he would probably get uneven lift, which would then in turn leave me with a uneven base or level to work on. So fingers crossed, I know it will. This blonde knife and this application is going to give me a great base to work with. And knowing the colour as well, the gold, which is why I was thinking like coppers, reds, but then when we introduced the natural violet in there as well, that was something which got me sort of thinking more about the violets. So James just moved on to the next side now. He's going to repeat it exactly the same. But if there's any comments, guys, pop it in the comment box, because we are here to chat with you, to talk you through things. If you want to talk hair trends, what's going to be big in the salon, what are we doing in the UK at the minute? Ask us away and we'll give you an insight into what we're doing in the salons right now. But still, you can see the saturation is there. He's getting a lot of product on that hair, making sure we're going to be left with a really nice lift. I know there is basically like a level 5 on the hair, but with the power of Blonde Knife, that's what we wanted to show you. We wanted to show you how our lighteners work, how clean a lift, how quick a lift we can get, still keeping the health of the hair as well. But look at how thin those sections are. Making sure that we're taking those sections really nice and fine. And I've got an idea of what I'm going to do with it. I am really thinking, if this is going right up to the scalp, I can't wait for James to throw it to me and have a look at it and have it in my hands. But looking at the 90s inspired stripes that are going to be really heavy and very prevalent in this, I want to soften it off. I want to put a root on. I don't just want to put a brown root on. I've got already in mind possibly like the 3VV in the Lumishine Gloss into, I don't know what, a level 8, level 9 through the mid-lengths and ends, so it just like transitions through. Something like that is what I've got in mind. I know we've got the 7V, we've got the 9V. I could be using the SBs as well to influence it. I could be using the NGs to influence a little bit of lightness in there. So when I get this mannequin head, I'll have a look, I'll assess it, I'll create a formulation, and I'll get straight onto it. So it's nice just seeing that slow down of James's work, because you could really see how intricate and how fine those sections are. And is that something that you guys in the salons, do you struggle with when it comes to not getting the lift, maybe not getting the saturation all the way through the hair? It's very much with balayage where you don't get the lift.
So here we have the finished result of the stripes, and these are straight out of the 90s. This is Jerry Halliwell from the Spice Girls all over again. For me, I think we're going to see a lot more of these very, very stripy techniques. Now, there's probably some very, very cool root shadow techniques out there that we could put to this.
Do you know what I'll do with this? This is my final sort of idea. A little root tap, root shadow, stretch it down a little bit with 3VV, going into 7V, a little bit of 10SB through the Lumishine Gloss liquids. I think that, just putting in that darker root and stretching it through to add like a pop of purple, I think that'll look great. So yeah, a root shadow, root tap, bring it bang up to date. That's what people are wanting. They're wanting low maintenance hair, and I think I can do just that with this.
Hold on, I can hear somebody reacting to my video. It's Paul. I can hear Paul reacting to this video. He's saying that he would put a root stretch on this and make it softer. Well, in that case, my friend, it's over to you.
So I'm thinking, not going blonde, I'm thinking I'm going to bring it back a bit, and I'm going to use some violets, because I think violets are really underutilised from like the level 7s down. I think with the glosses that we have with the 3VV and the 7, I need to formulate the 7 just so we can create something a little bit different, so I get a melt through. But I'm thinking with this root colour where we've got the 4NG and the 6NV, I think working on that level sort of 5, I think it will go with it. I think that violet hue that we've got in there, that you guys can see, it's going to work beautifully. And then we just put a really nice little wave around that front with that purple pop purple pop here and just blending through. Same with here, like a purple pop root. I've just made that up, purple pop, but I love it. I love doing these sort of descriptive phrases for clients to really get excited about and create a bit of theatre. So yeah, purple pop roots is what we're going for, guys. And we're going to melt out. I am going to put on there 7V and 10SB and just melt it through. So I love that brown colour. I love how that's sitting. I love the golden, like violet hue that we've got working through there. But these blonde pieces, I mean, yeah, Spice Girls, 90s hair is here. But I'm going to bring it bang up to date with a nice root shadow, melt, using the violet family, a little bit of silver blue in there to just bump it up a bit and just tone out some of the warmth. Oh man, I'm excited. I love this. Thank you. And let's get to it. Right guys, so now we're going to start with the application. And what I've formulated and mixed up is I'm using full demi-liquid range from Lumishine, and I'm using the 3VV to around about there where that hair moves from there, but there it's sort of still. So that's where we want to take it to, the parietal ridge, because that's where it's going to add its most sort of vibrancy and impact, because it's sitting there quite stationary. And then from there we're going to work with the 7V, which is going to be 30 grams to 10 grams of 10SB. But first we want to just isolate our blonde pieces to the best of our ability, because when it is doing this, it is quite hard to isolate all of it. But what we'll do there is we've done there, and then take down there, and there's just a tiny bit of blonde. We want to make sure we get all the blonde, but it doesn't really matter if we pull a little bit of the brown in there, because the brown is already of like a violet hue, so it doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to start with this section here. So let's get our next clip, and then we're just going to clip that out the way. So working very precise with a clean brush. So I've already pre-mixed it with another brush because I really like to work really nice and clean. And then application wise, I just take a bead of colour, as you can see there. And then what we're going to do is we're just working this. And again, I would normally put a foil on there if I didn't want to get it over there, but it doesn't really matter because it's so symmetrical. We're going to be working it over there anyway. And like James did with the fine sections, we're not working quite as fine as James, but we are working with fine sections. So we're just pulling that down and making sure we're getting that saturation on both sides. All the way down to there. So if you want a length, you're sort of looking at around about 2 inches. But then as we come underneath, because the hair's just going to move anyway, I'm just going to go a little bit less. So work it down to 1 inch on 2 sections. Because then that will give us a little bit more vibrancy up and around. When the hair sort of lifts and moves, you'll see a bit more vibrancy further up the hair. Violets are cool.
Before we get into our violets cool, it's just really interesting to watch Paul work. I personally would have probably just taken that whole section on and not isolated just the blonde area. I'd have just taken on that whole top section and treated it as if it was kind of like a half head application. But it's just really interesting to see how people go about these things, and so there's nothing wrong or right, that's just kind of a different way of thinking about it. And it's really interesting as a professional hairdresser, as I'm sure you watch people do things on the internet, as we all do these days, and think to yourself, I wouldn't do it like that, but next time I'm doing something like that, I'll try it that way. So that's definitely something that I've taken away from the last few minutes. I hope that gives you a different perspective on the way you can think about it too.
Are violets in? Let us know in the comments, guys. Are violets in? And it's a big trend I've been seeing sort of happening all over the internet. You've got all the magazines, the fashion magazines that are predicting that they're going to be big. So I think they're going to be big. I think violets and the violet blondes are definitely going to come back. But there's that section there. So I'm just going to move it round to the other side.
Just before we move on, I think, yeah, violet is always on trend in my book. To be honest, I think violet is a really easy to wear colour. There's especially on kind of paler skin tones. I think it looks fantastic. As Paul said, it's reasonably underutilized in the darker shades. Obviously we go a lot to violet for neutralizing yellow, but I think there is a lot of, you know, easy to wear violet shades, and we can kind of stretch and bend the violet spectrum, as I did with the base color, putting the violet into the base color to kind of give the brown a slightly violety hue, which is really, really pretty color to have on someone's hair. So that's definitely something to bear in mind if you are thinking about kind of creating your own custom, well, bespoke colors, as I'm sure you do.
And again, we're just going to section this through, picking up as much blonde as we can, because we don't want to miss out that, but it doesn't matter if we pick up some of the brunette colour. But we do want to pick up all of the blonde, because we don't want any of that showing when it comes to our final result. Clip this out the way, and this is basically what I'm going to do on the front as well. So I'll fly through this, and then just clip that out the way, and then I'll jump onto the front.
So while Paul cracks on with this technique, I think it's really a great opportunity to say thank you to everybody who's watching this and has joined in on Joy Nation. It's a fantastic event. A lot of investment has gone into it, and I'm really, really pleased to be part of it. I know Paul is massively honoured to be here as well. We hope that you come away with some new insights and inspirations, and some maybe things that you can use straight on the shop floor next week. This particular technique, we wanted to kind of mash up two trends, I guess, that one is become a staple of our technical diet, the root stretch or root shadow or root tap, dependent on the length of those techniques you're creating, and this very stripy kind of look that I think is going to grow through 2022. Some of you, maybe all of you, will remember when this was in fashion the first time round, the circa 90s Spice Girls vibe, and I think we can make this old trend really interesting by implementing some of the new techniques we've learned since that previous trend. And I think that's what trends are for me. It's sort of a gentle evolution of previous things that came before. Anyway, let's join Paul for the front sections.
So now let's get onto the front. Again, just sectioning this money piece out, and I think this is really going to be the winner. You're going to see this real intensity pop of colour. Let's just clip that out of the way. And I'm just going to work this all through here, and this is just going to be a little bit less than it was at the back, because I want this to be higher and brighter around the face. So I'm not taking this to the parietal ridge. This is just a little root shadow as such, whereas the back section was more of a root melt. There we go. There's that little shadow in through that front piece. As you can see there, this travels down to here, and this travels down to there. So you've got quite a difference, but you've got that angle through there.
Really interesting what Paul's talking about there, having just a shorter shadow in the front and then a stretch in the back. And that's what I was saying previously about having the kind of definable technique between root tap, root shadow, root stretch. A root tap is even shorter than what Paul has done, and that is just a great way of diffusing highlights or stripes, for instance, but it's a much shorter piece of colour on the hair. But the diagonal that Paul kind of pointed to, that's a great point actually, because when we put a diagonal in that drops into the nape area, that really draws the eye down towards the length, and that's kind of what we want to achieve when we're putting in most of our root stretch colours. We want to kind of start up by the temple area and drop it down into the occipital bone area. This will probably leave it a little bit brighter around the front, which generally speaking is not a bad thing, dependent obviously on kind of artistic choices and client taste, but in a nutshell, that's what I tend to aim to do.
And remember, this front piece is more of a shadow, so we're just touching on this regrowth line.
I can't wait to see the end result here. I have refrained from watching this. Hang on for it, because I'm really, really intrigued to see what Paul comes up with.
So now we're grabbing our 7V and 10SB. Let's start this section, and we can be not so precise with the sectioning because this is a level sort of 8, and you can see that root's dropping lovely in there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to refresh that sort of line, or that point, shall I say, that we came to. And now we're going to work our result through here, which is the 7V and the 10SB. And you're going to get a bit of tone in, you're going to get a bit of deposit, but this is just going to really soften it all off, but add just a bit of a difference. So again, getting saturation in there and just melting those two together. And it's something I really like to do. If you see my lives, you will see I do a lot of this, of just melting colours together, contrasting colours. I did a lot with the intensity, and with the chunky highlights in between. This will blend a bit more than the contrasting of the blonde and the brown, but these are just going to clean it all out, but just add a bit of a point of interest. Remember, saturation is king. We're getting all of that on there. Spin her around, and I absolutely love 7V. When you haven't got any 9V in the salon and you're desperately needing it, or 10V, not 7V, a little drop of it in with your 10SBs or your level 10s or 9s is just absolutely stunning. It takes away more yellow than anything I've used. Just that little, because there's a bit more pigment in there, so you're just getting that full neutralisation of using the violet against the yellows.
Great advice there from Paul. I hope you take that tip away with you, using those shades there to kind of give yourself extra tone and really boost the tonal power of your colours. That is a cracking piece of advice, so that's definitely one to write down and take home with you.
Spin around to the front, and there's not much on this side, but we've got that little root shadow that we want to melt into. So we're just going to refresh that there, and just blend that through with your fingers, and then the rest of the formulation. So up here I'm using that, down here I'm using that part of my fingers. And again guys, saturation, get the melt in there, and you'll have a stunning result. Spin round, last part. There's the root shadow at the front. Refresh it, just melt together, and then put your rest of your tone in, or whatever formulation through the mid-Epsom ends you're going to be trying this technique with. Just blending or melting. And I'll clean up this model when I'm done. So that's the application done. We're looking at a root melt through here, root shadow through the front, and then just a blend of the same colour on the mid-lengths and ends, which again is the 7V and 10SB. We're going to let that develop for 20 minutes and I'll bring it right back. And here we go guys, this is the finished result. I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with the 3VV, how that brought that depth right back down. Considering how blonde this was, how deep that brought it back down with just using a gloss, a 20-minute gloss, and then the 7V and the 10SB, tiny bit of 10SB in there, but just to give it this sort of cascade of violet. And if you just check that out, check out the root, how deep you can see that deepness in those two panels that we've got there, and there. And they sort of work, contrasting colours against the original colour. And then that purple, let's see if you can see that through there. The root shadow melting into that nice violet. I'm so surprised at how pigmented it's actually gone with the 7V. I know it is a strong pigment of violet, but this has just exploded with colour.
Wow, what a fantastic result. I just love that pop of purple around the front. It really, really does set the whole thing off. Great work.
So there we have it. Thank you so much for the collab, James, The Life of Hair. Make sure you check us both out on YouTube. You've got Paul Watts Hair, you've got The Life of Hair with James. Thank you so much for the collaboration, mate. I've absolutely loved it. Mate, take it away.
Paul, it has been an absolute pleasure, my friend, to be able to collaborate with you on such a fantastic event. It is always wonderful to work with like-minded people who just really want to create positive outcomes to collaborative efforts. It has been great collaborating with you since last February. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And it is also a wonderful honour to be part of this Joico Artistic Network. Thank you for the opportunity, guys. As I'd mentioned previously, it's a huge honour for me and Paul to be part of this, and we can't wait to do more work with Joico in the future. So if you've enjoyed this, then keep your eyes peeled for some of the things that we have got planned in the future. Paul will tell you all about our YouTube collaboration, which runs every Wednesday at the end of the video. But until then, guys, please look after yourself. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, Joico, for putting on such a great event. Again, I really hope you're enjoying Joy Nation. I hope you've enjoyed this little sort of collab me and James have done. We also do a Wednesday night live every single week called Headucation, and that is myself and James using all of the Joico products, colours, bringing you techniques every single week for education. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy Joy Nation, and don't forget to check out the rooms where you can catch myself and James and the rest of the Joico European team and have a little chat.